Now let me show you another shortcut. How to quickly and easily sew quilt squares together so you get perfectly matched corners in your quilts. One of the most frustrating things is getting the corners to match up perfectly. It seems like no matter how hard you try, there is always a little bit of discrepancy, right? However, there is a simple trick that can help you get matched corners every time. Hi, I'm Olga from hberry.com. Welcome to my channel all about sewing, embroidery and quilting. For this method you will need a piece of fusible interfacing. It should be very lightweight, and interfacing is usually very cheap and often 50% off in fabric stores. Once you cut a piece of interfacing, lay it out on your work surface with the adhesive side up. Arrange your fabric squares on top of the interfacing in rows and columns. Make sure you are following the quilt pattern. The top side of the interfacing piece is straight, so start putting your squares right at the top. This is my pattern for the pillow sham I am making. I didn't make the pattern nice yet, I just drew it by hand. Fabric edges should be put very close together without overlapping. Try to keep the rows and columns as straight as possible. You will also want to make sure that all the squares are smooth before you begin pressing. If there are any creases or folds, they will become permanent when you press them with the iron. Later I decided to change some white squares to violets. So this is what it looks like now. Now it's time to press fabric squares with a hot iron. Simply press the iron down onto the fabric for a few seconds. Move it around until the entire surface is fused. Once you are done, let the squares cool completely before you begin using the sheet. You can use a pressing cloth. If any glue comes off of the interfacing, it will be absorbed by the pressing cloth instead of sticking to the iron. But try not to touch the interfacing with the iron. Make sure that the iron is set to the appropriate heat level. You don't want to damage the fabric. I kept my iron on medium heat or wool setting. After you finished fusing the interfacing, trim away any excess interfacing. The next step is sewing the squares row by row. You will have to fold the first row of squares right sides together with the whole sheet and stitch along the fold using 1/4" seam allowances. Next, fold the second row and again stitch along the fold with 1/4" seam allowances. And you will have to continue until all the rows in one direction are stitched together. Now go to your sewing machine. It's very important to keep the same seam allowances, 1/4" seam allowances, over the entire piece. But it's very easy to do if you use a special 1/4" presser foot. This is the result. In this step you should open the seams and press them. It's very easy and fast to open the seam allowances on each row. Just use a seam ripper and cut the interfacing between the seam allowances. And after that, finger press the seams open. I like to use a special finger presser to do that. And after that, press with a steam iron. The prepared sheet with squares should lie completely flat without any wrinkles or folds. Now it's time to sew the remaining rows, which are perpendicular to the already sewn rows. To start, simply fold down the first row so that the right sides are together with the sheet, and then sew along the fold in the same manner as you did with the previous rows. And work your way across the whole piece until all the rows have been sewn. It's very important to keep the same seam allowances, 1/4 inch, over the entire piece. This is the result. The seams don't need to be open. Press them on one side, all in the same direction. I use the finger presser first, and after that press with an iron. It's better to do it from the front side of the block. And this is the result. Now you can see that all squares in this quilt block are exactly the same size, and the corners are perfectly matched. Now let me tell you about the projects I used these squares for. I have put together this masterclass on quilting. This class will show you how to make 2 different quilts, a patchwork peluche and a placemat. These projects are perfect for getting started with quilting, and they are both really cute too. This class will walk you through each step of the process, from cutting your fabric to piecing together the quilt top, to adding the finishing touches, to binding. After taking this class, you will have completed 2 beautiful quilts that you can be proud of, and you will have all the skills you need to tackle more complex quilt designs.